Welcome back to my Man Views YouTube channel. Enjoy the video.
Miss Wildman?
Ms. Larson, how are you currently employed?
With the Department of Family and Protective Services.
And what do you do for them?
I am an investigator.
And are you familiar with a child by the name of Ryan Kennedy?
Yes,
And how old is Ryan?
she is 8.
And I guess, how did the department get involved with Ryan and her family?
We received a report with concerns about her safety.
And did you make contact with Ryan at any point?
Yes,
And I mean, how did you go about setting that up, or where did you meet with Ryan?
at her school.
And I mean, first off, did Ryan relay those any particular feelings about how she felt at home to you?
Yes, she did.
And what did she say about being at home?
She stated she didn't feel safe being at around her mom, that her mom had some mental health issues that had been going on since she was in first grade, which was 2 years ago, and that it made her feel really worried. She mentioned several different incidents of um, different times where things had been bad, where mom had thrown things at dad, or mom was hitting dad, things such of that nature.
And so, when you spoke with Ryan, um, did she, I mean, did she mention what was the most recent incident that she had mentioned that made her feel unsafe?
Ryan told me that something had happened the Sunday prior to me seeing her, which was just like a couple of days before I saw her. She told me that something was going on with her parents, that they were screaming and yelling at each other, that she got really scared. She didn't tell me the specifics of the argument. She just told me that she went and locked herself in a room and called for help, but that she left the home because she felt unsafe.
And eventually, I mean, who did she tell you who came and got her?
Paternal grandfather came and got her.
And did she tell you who she had initially called for help?
Yes, she had initially called paternal grandmother.
Okay. And is it your understanding that paternal grandfather, after being called, he came and did remove her from the home?
Yes.
Now, are were there any other, I guess, things that had been going on that Ryan mentioned made her feel unsafe or uncomfortable?
She said she really didn't feel safe in the car with her mom because sometimes her mom would kind of just go off. She mentioned that mom had tried to run them off the road um, prior to this case last year by grabbing the steering wheel while dad was driving. She also mentioned that mom had tried to run dad off the road recently after like the week that I had seen Ryan, after calling him multiple times at work. Um, she just said she did not feel safe there. That mom is still throwing and breaking things like plates and hitting dad in the head and trying to get him to hit her back so he could go to jail.
Now, I mean, at any point did Ryan say that either of her parents had physically hurt her?
No,
Had they done anything else, or had either of the parents ever done anything else that had made her that I guess that made her sad or upset?
she mentioned that like sometimes during these times work, Miss Kennedy was throwing things, that she would break some of Ryan's favorite possessions, and that made her really upset and sad because she likes her items. Um, yeah, she said her
And
mom laid. She also said it was hard because her mom stayed in bed all day and her dad had to do everything.
now, did she make any other statements about anything else that made her unsafe in the home?
I believe that was the gist of it.
Okay. And do you recall what day you had talked with her?
On February 27th.
Okay. Now, ultimately, when the court had approved a removal, did you speak with Ryan again?
I have spoken with Ryan, yes.
Okay. And, what sort of thing, I mean, what was Ryan's demeanor when she was informed that she was being removed?
She was very understanding. I talked to her about, her safety, and she told me that she still only feels a little bit safe in her house, but not all the way safe, and that she was really more concerned that she didn't have any of her personal belongings and what she was going to be able to wear the next day and that sort of thing.
Did she talk to you about good nights?
Yes.
And, I mean, did you talk to Ryan about what she needs those for?
Yes, she said that she has been wetting the bed some and that she recently had to start wearing those. And I told her I would make sure we got her some for placement.
Okay. Now, have you talked with Ryan since that removal?
Yes.
And I mean, has she relayed to you any changes in her, I guess, feel her and the way she feels about her safety?
I've seen her and spoken to her several times. She seems really happy and she really likes her placement. Whenever I talk to her, she reported that she is wetting her goodnight less and that some mornings she wakes up and it's dry. Um, she seems to be feeling happy, like happy where she's at.
Now, prior to removal, did you have the opportunity to talk to Mr. and Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes.
And when did you first make contact with Mrs. Kennedy?
That's the same day I talked to Ryan, which was the 27th of February,
And where did you make contact with her?
at their residence.
And who, I guess, was home when you first made contact?
Ryan and Miss Kennedy.
And I mean, did you have a very long conversation with Miss Kennedy at that time?
No.
Was she willing to, I mean, what did you tell her the reason you were there was?
So I let her know that we had received a new report and then I needed to discuss that with her. And that we had some significant concerns that we needed to talk about.
And at that point, did you talk to her about doing something like a safety plan?
Yes.
But was she willing to have that conversation at that point?
No, she said that she wanted to speak to an attorney, so I provided her with a 3010 rights for her rights, and I also provided her with the safety plan that we were proposing, which asked for her to move out and for her to be supervised with Ryan.
Okay. And did you give her a time by which she needed to get back in touch with you about that?
Yes, we asked by 10 a.m. the next morning.
Okay. And so was there anything else of note when you made contact with Miss Kennedy that caused concern?
Just that whenever she did open the door, there was a strong smell of marijuana in the house.
Okay. And so Mr. Kennedy was not home at that time, correct?
No.
Did you reach out and make contact with him at any point that day?
Yes, I called him as soon as I left the home.
And you called him on the phone?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess what did you tell him was the reason for your contact with him?
So I explained to him that we had gotten a new report, and I also told him that we needed to go over his notification of rights, but that we had some significant concerns and that Miss Kennedy had declined talking to me before talking to a lawyer. He was pretty friendly and seemed cooperative on the phone, and told me that he would speak to a lawyer and get back to me, that he wanted to make a plan for Ryan's safety. I proposed a family team meeting to happen at our office, and he said that they would be in agreement to do that without an attorney and that we set one up for the following day.
Okay. And so when you talked to him on the phone, did he, did he seem, I guess, surprised that there had been a report?
Um, no, he felt like his family had reported this, saying that they were causing a lot of drama, and that his family was wanting the parents to get divorced. And he felt like that's where this report was coming from.
Did he make any comments about, I guess, Ryan or Ryan's mental health or needs?
He did say that their priority was for Ryan's safety, and he knew that Ryan needed to have a therapist, and they had been planning to do that. They just haven't done it yet.
And so, were you able to have a family team meeting with Mr. and Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes, we had it the following day.
And was anybody else present for that meeting?
Yes, Randall Kennedy was present,
And who's Randall Kennedy?
the paternal grandfather.
And was it just you, or was there anybody else from the department present?
The facilitator, Karen Cressup, and my supervisor, Melody Zuniga.
Okay. And at that point, were you able to discuss, I guess, the report and the issues a little bit more in depth?
Yes, we were able to go over all of that with them.
Okay. And what sort of concerns did you and the Kennedys discuss at that meeting?
Um, Specifically the ongoing mental health issues that Miss Kennedy has. We discussed an incident that happened over Christmas break in North Carolina, where she had to be detained. We discussed how Ryan felt that she didn't feel safe in the home, and we included details of her interview for them. Um, and we discussed basically how we felt that she was not in a safe place at this point, and we were trying to come up with a safety intervention.
Now, when trying to come up with that plan during this meeting, was I guess, the idea of Mrs. Kennedy moving out of the home brought up?
Yes, that was our primary goal, or that was our what we had hoped we could do. But the family said that they were not in agreement to do that. That they've already been separated due to a previous charge that Miss Kennedy picked up late last year, and that they weren't going to be separated again. They said that it would be detrimental to the progress they have made for them to be separated.
And so did they acknowledge, I guess, a need for the family to work services in any way?
They really felt like things were going well for them. They're in marriage counseling. They did agree to work services at that point, but they really deflected most of the concerns, stating that Mr. Kennedy's family, his mother specifically, was making this all out to be a lot worse than it is, or making Ryan believe things that weren't true, and that like they really didn't feel like this was all necessary.
Okay. And after that family team meeting, what sort of, I guess, plan was put in place?
The plan that we came up with was actually for Randall Kennedy to move into the home, for them to work family-based safety services, and they also agreed to drug screen during that process. Um, and so we put that plan in place that Miss Kennedy would not have any unsupervised contact with Ryan.
Okay. And so, I guess, what were the concerns regarding drug screening?
Uh, the marijuana for one, and for two, that there could be something more substantial going on based on the behaviors that we're seeing.
Now, did you discuss with the parents, I guess, what kind of medications that they were already on and they disclosed?
Yes.
And what had Mr. Kennedy disclosed?
He did disclose that he uses the THCA products that he sells at his company. And so he would come back positive for THC, but that it was a legal form. He also disclosed using Adderall for ADHD and Xanax for anxiety.
And did you talk with Mrs. Kennedy about what medication she may be on?
Yes, she stated she used those same three things as well as Pristiq for depression and clonidine for anxiety and ADHD.
Okay. And to be clear, after the family team meeting, you met with them again? Is that accurate?
Yes, I completed a parent interview with them after the family team meeting, just by myself.
And is that where this came up?
Yes.
And so what, I mean, was the domestic violence discussed?
They they denied ongoing domestic violence. They denied some of the things that Ryan had told me, such as the incident where that week Miss Kennedy had tried to run Mr. Kennedy off the road. And they also denied any recent physical attacks of Miss Kennedy on Mr. Kennedy.
Okay. And so after this meeting, I mean, what was sort of their demeanor as far as moving forward with the department's plans?
They were really they actually said they were excited that they felt like this was actually going to get them on a better page, that it would just kind of help them along faster. They were in agreement to everything that we said. Miss Kennedy said they might just go ahead and go drug screen like then because she needed to use the restroom anyways. And so they left and everything seemed good.
Now, did they drug screen for the department the next day?
No.
What kind of communication did you have with the parents, I guess, that following day, if any?
I just got a text message that Saturday from Mr. Kennedy stating that they're not going to move forward with the blood panels that we discussed, and that he provided an attorney's name and phone number, asking me to contact them with any questions or concerns that we might have. I responded just letting him know that it was a urine drug screen, and asked him if he would help me understand if he was saying no to just the drug screen or also to the safety plan and the services that they had agreed to. He did not respond to me, so that was kind of where we left things.
Um, did you have any contact with Mr. Kennedy again after that?
Um, the only other contact I had from him was later in the week saying that he had a attorney consult scheduled.
So do you recall what day that was?
Let me double check. March 3rd. He
Okay.
said that they were anticipating it to be done on Wednesday of that week.
Okay. Had you attempted to relay any other information to them in the meantime?
I did speak with the attorney he gave me. He was not licensed in the state of Texas, and he did not practice family law. He basically said that.
And that's fine. Did you email them any other like service providers or anything to get anything started in that
Yeah.
time?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I sent Miss Kennedy a list of counselors for Ryan.
Did you hear anything back from her?
She did respond saying thank you, and thank you for your patience, basically.
Okay. Oh, and let me, I guess, follow up on that. is there anything concerning about the delay in the parents getting back to you?
Yes.
And why was that concerning?
We had already put a safety plan in place that Ryan was going to be supervised with Christine at all times, and that they were going to do all, these things to mitigate our concerns for her safety, and the fact that they did not respond and were not getting back to us made us really very concerned that they were not going to move forward with any of the things they had agreed to.
Now, did in this time period, did you have any kind of follow up with Ryan?
No.
What about on March 3rd? Did you have contact with Ryan at the
Uh,
school?
sorry. So many things. Yes, I did. I did have contact with her.
Now, was she able to confirm that her grandfather was living with them?
He did say he stayed with him for the weekend.
Okay. And what did she say about what was going on at home?
She said that he was going to stay there until she feels safe. She only felt a little bit safe, and that right now her parents are not arguing because they didn't want Pops to see them do that.
Yeah. Did she say anything else that Mr. Kennedy had told her to do or not do?
Not to talk to the school counselors anymore because she was going to be getting a counselor outside of school.
Was that concerning?
Yes.
And why was that concerning?
Because Ryan felt like, her counselor at school was a safe person that she could go to. And she has in the past talked to her when she didn't feel safe. So to cut that off is almost like a lifeline she had in case she didn't feel safe.
Um, Ultimately, when what do you believe the department in this time period was trying to make reasonable efforts to prevent the need for removal?
Yes.
And what effort specifically do you think that the department made to avoid the removal?
We put in a safety plan. We had a family team meeting. We tried to continue contact with the family, continued investigating by talking to others that are aware of the situation, um, but ultimately did not hear back from anybody or an attorney within this time period.
Yeah. And specifically, how long of a time period did you give the family to start working these services or make contact with the department again before pursuing removal?
So there was no specific date at, on this agreement that we made, because we were unaware that they were trying to contact an attorney and they had already signed the agreement and safety plan with us.
Was it concerning that they had signed the safety plan and then still hadn't contact or on February 28th, but still hadn't contacted the department by March 5th?
Yes.
And why does that cause you concern?
Because of the ongoing violence and I guess for lack of better words, episodes that Miss Kennedy has been known to have, and Ryan feeling like she's still not safe in the home.
And is that why the department sought removal?
Yes.
Okay. Um, Let me see. Now, have you had any contact with the parents since the removal?
Yes.
And I guess what have you attempted to engage them in services?
I have not. St. Francis is typically the ones that do that.
Well, what was the nature of the conversations that you've had with them?
The first conversations I had with them were to let them know of the removal and ask them if they would bring Ryan some of her belongings, and that I would give them the removal paperwork so that they had that as well.
Now, let me kind of take a step back here. And after that decision of removal, did you believe that the child's physical or emotional well-being would be at risk if she remained in the home with her parents?
Yes.
And is that why you sought the removal orders?
Yes.
Okay. And I mean, at this point, have you had any further discussions with the Kennedy family about working services? Or has that shifted over to the St. Francis caseworker?
Yes. St. Francis.
Okay. Um, let me see. Give me 1 minute. Um, as far as the department's involvement, have there been any other referrals to the department regarding the family?
Yes.
And how long ago were those other referrals?
The first referral was in December of 2023, and the second was in September of 2024.
When you talked to the Kennedys, were they able to outline any sort of things that they had done in the meantime to try to address the issues?
Yes, they talked about that Miss Kennedy had gone to the Amen clinic to get a more thorough evaluation of her mental health, and that she was working with them to try to stabilize her medications and in her moods. And they also talked about starting marriage counseling for themselves.
But did they say anything about having gotten Ryan into counseling in between those referrals?
They still had not done that.
Okay. And even with the efforts that Mrs. Kennedy was taking, were there still concerns about the ongoing behavior?
Yes.
And again, did that play into the department's urgent need, fear, feeling, or did the department feel based on that there was an urgent need to protect the child?
Yes.
And just based off of the concerns the department had, was there no time consistent with the circumstances to have had this adversary before removal?
Right.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, thank you, Ms. Riley.
Thank you, Judge. So, Ms. Larson, just I want to make sure I understand. So you talked to my clients and they agreed to follow a safety plan on the 28th of February. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then what exactly, I mean, I know that Randall Kennedy moving in was part of that plan. Is that right?
Yes.
And Randall Kennedy was supposed to make sure that Christine was not alone with Ryan. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then you wanted them to drug test.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was there anything else that you asked them to do at that point in time?
That they agreed to do an assessment with family-based safety services for ongoing services.
Okay. And was that assessment ever set up?
So it wasn't because Mr. Kennedy texted that he had an attorney.
Okay. But so let's go to then you hear from Jason Kennedy and he says, hey, listen, He says we're gonna get we need to get an attorney, right?
Yes.
And did Mr. Kennedy explain to you that that was because of their business and he had some concerns about drug testing when he's in the business of selling CBD products?
So he didn't explain very little to me. That was part of the concern we had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you testified a second ago that one of your major concerns was that you hadn't heard from the parents from the 28th when they signed until the 5th when you did the removal, right?
Other than the text messages, the text message that he sent me
Okay.
about the attorney and about getting an attorney set up.
Okay, so on March 3rd, Jason texted you and said, hey, I have a consultation set up. I really appreciate your patience in waiting for us to get a lawyer, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, did you respond to him and said, hey, you're out of time, either start doing the services or there's going to be consequences?
No.
In fact, you didn't respond to him at all, right?
Nope.
So you didn't tell him, you got to get a lawyer today, otherwise we're going to remove your kid.
So I did ask him if they were still following the safety plan and still willing to do the services, but he was not responsive to that.
Judge, I'd
So
ask that that be stricken as non-responsive.
Overrule.
Okay, my question, Ms. Larson, is did you say to him, um, if, you know, that you have to have a lawyer now or, we're going to remove your child?
no.
Okay. And so then, so at that point in time, you did though talk to Randall Kennedy on 2 occasions during that time frame from the time that they signed the agreement until the time of removal, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and Randall Kennedy told you both times that he was living at the home, right?
Object to hearsay. Randall Kennedy is not a party to the case and hasn't been called as a witness yet.
Sustain.
Okay, well, you testified earlier that you talked to Ryan, and Ryan said that Randall was there, right?
Yes.
Okay, and she said that Ryan was going to stay with her and that was the plan going forward.
Randall, yes.
I'm sorry, Ryan said Randall would, yes.
Yes.
And so as far as the agency's, as far as your awareness at that point in time, though, is it fair to say that you did not have any information to the contrary that Randall Kennedy was living there and was supervising the way that you'd asked him to?
Yes.
Okay, so at least as far as that part of the plan was going the way the department asked for it to go.
Yes.
All right. Now you got a letter from, and I'm not asking you what he said, but you did get a letter or an email from an attorney, correct?
It was actually all by phone call, but yes. He said he sent me an email. I never got an email. So
Okay.
I don't, yeah.
Okay, but he talked to you and without saying what he said, would you agree with me that he explained to you what the concerns that the Kennedys had?
Yes.
All right. Did you at any point in time give that attorney a deadline and say, listen, if you guys don't get things together by X date, we're going to remove?
No.
Right. At any point prior to the removal, did you tell Mrs. Kennedy that if she didn't do X, Y, or Z that you were going to remove?
No.
All right. After the removal, did you have a conversation with Mr. and Mrs. Kennedy about the removal?
Yes, I did.
All right. Did you tell them that initially you wanted to do an order to participate?
I did.
All right. And so you originally informed them that even after you found all this out, you were going to let the child or let Ryan remain at home. Is that right?
Yes, with an order.
Right. And so your plan, having done this investigation and having consulted with supervisors, was that Ryan should remain at home with an order that her parents cooperate with a service plan. Is that right?
And supervision.
Well, supervision would be included in that safety plan. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And you testified on direct that you felt that there was an urgent need to protect the child that necessitated her removal. Do you remember testifying that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sorry, you testified on direct examination that you felt there was an urgent need to protect the child, and that's why you did a removal. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And yet you told my clients that you weren't going to remove the child and that instead you were going to file an order to participate, leaving the child at home as long as they were ordered to cooperate with services.
To clarify, we asked for legal intervention. It's really not our call to make, whether it's an OTP or removal.
Objection, Judge. I'm going to ask that that be stricken as non-responsive.
Sustain.
Okay. So my question is, though, you told my clients that regardless of what the legal status is, you told my clients, hey, I tried to go get an order to participate that was gonna leave Ryan at your house and was just gonna have you guys would have to do services, right? That's what you told them.
Right.
Okay. And you told them that the only reason why you had to remove was why?
That they did not feel safe with Ryan being in the same home with Miss Kennedy.
Well, what did you tell Christine and Jason was the reason that you had to do a removal?
That's what I just said.
Well, didn't you
That
tell them,
that legal didn't feel safe with her being in the home with Miss Kennedy.
actually, didn't you tell them specifically that the judge said no and that the judge said that the child had to be removed?
I don't think those were my specific words, but basically.
Okay, and so basically you told my clients that even though the department felt like the child remaining at home was fine, that the judge for some reason disagreed.
Judge, I want to object to a little mischaracterization of what she said. I think she answered what she said to them and then she clarified.
Same.
Well, Judge, if I could, I think I'm trying to clarify because I think those were two different things that were testified to. So I really am just trying to get an honest impression of what they were told.
Well, if let's just do one at a time, so we'll know for sure.
Okay. And so, okay, so let me ask a better question. So you testified on direct examination that you had concerns about the child's physical and emotional well-being that warranted removal. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. But you did not have those concerns when you first went to go do an order to participate. Is that right?
I don't know that I can say that truly. My goal was to do a legal intervention to make Ryan safe. So the first objective was yes, in order to participate.
All right. And I'm going to assume because of that, you felt like there were things that the department could do that would allow Ryan to be safe without removing her from her home.
Yes.
All right. But
With cooperation.
okay. And then instead of doing those, she was removed.
Yes.
All right. Nothing changed. Well, and I'm going to ask it instead of, but so am I correct that nothing changed from the moment that you first decided, we can put an order in place that will keep the child at home until when you removed her?
Well, it was reviewed by legal, yes, and they felt that that was not appropriate based on the affidavit that was read.
Well, when you say legal, who's that?
The judge.
Okay, so you don't mean your attorneys, correct?
Correct.
All right, so you had brought the case to a supervisor, is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
And your supervisor had agreed that leaving the child in the home with an order to participate was appropriate.
Yes, initially.
All right. So you didn't receive any new information from Ryan before you removed, right?
No.
And you didn't receive any new information about the Kennedys before you removed?
No.
Okay. Or from anyone else before you did the removal?
I tried to object. It kind of is edging on attorney-client relationship conversation that they had with their legal on which way to go.
Oh, overrule.
Okay. So, so now okay. So in the removal, you stated that, well, to your knowledge, do you know whether or not, did you ever follow back up again to see whether or not Randall Kennedy was residing in the home?
Just the times you mentioned already.
Did you go to the house to observe anything about what was going on between the 27th or the 28th and I think it's the 5th when Ryan was removed?
I did not because they stated they wanted to speak with an attorney first.
Okay. When you spoke to Ryan on the 3rd, is it fair to say that Ryan said that things were better for her?
With grandpa there, yes.
All right. So the fighting had decreased?
Yeah. No, she didn't clarify that.
Well, didn't you specifically state that she said her parents were not fighting now that her grandpa was there?
I guess so, yeah. Because they didn't want him to see that.
Right. So the fighting had stopped.
Or I guess so.
Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that she felt a little bit safe, which would you agree is better than the not safe that she said earlier?
Yes.
Okay. And so the child is actually as of March 3rd, the child's in a better position, according to your report, than she was at initial intake.
Yes.
All right, now Christine Kennedy has provided information to you regarding her mental health issues. Is that fair?
As far as, I'm not sure as far as her medications, yes.
Well, she's had conversations with you where she's gone into detail about her diagnosis.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. And what she's taking and how much she's taking.
All right. In your affidavit for the removal, isn't it true that you detail that Christine talked to you about what she was initially diagnosed with, what she takes Xanax for, what she takes Adderall for, what she does with depression, and all of those things?
Yeah.
She detailed for you where she's going to get treatment for at the Amen Clinic.
Yes.
She and Mr. Kennedy explained to you that she withdrawn. So you mentioned there were 2 incidences in the past with the department in December of 23 and then in September of 24, correct?
Yes.
All right. And isn't it true that Christine and Jason told you that there was a mental health diagnosis that happened after one of those incidences that she was then medicated for?
I believe it was during that, yes.
And then that she'd really been struggling with medication issues and working with medical providers to try to get her medication right.
She just told me she was titrating off of Xanax. They didn't tell me they didn't specifically tell me she was struggling trying to get her medications right, just that she wanted to be able to get off Xanax and they were trying to slowly wean her off of that, so she wasn't on that anymore.
Okay, so when you had a conversation with Jason Kennedy on February 27th, didn't he specifically tell you that there was an incorrect bipolar diagnosis and that he and Christine had been working with medical providers to assist in getting their medication correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so Christine has provided you photographs of all of her prescriptions, right?
Yes.
So has Jason.
Yes.
And they've been very forthcoming about the fact that they do use legal CBD products.
Yes.
All right. And since the removal, would you agree with me that Jason and Christine have explained a lot more in detail as to what their concerns were about drug testing?
Yes, they just told me they were concerned about that we could I think that I don't know if it was them or the attorney I talked to, that we could remove her for marijuana.
Okay. Now, they both have drug tested, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And you informed them both that they tested for marijuana, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you'd agree with me that the test that's provided, though, cannot distinguish between legal forms of tetrahydrocannabinol and illegal forms of it, correct?
Yes.
So things that might be legal, Delta 8, well, all of those things, we don't know.
Right.
All right. So when you say things like the house smelled like marijuana, you're not able to differentiate, are you, between whether or not it was illegal marijuana or some sort of legal CBD product, are you?
No.
Okay, so you don't have any reason to not believe them if they say, hey, yeah, it's a legal product.
Right.
Okay. Now, so in terms of things that they've done to try to deal with the issues they've been having, would you agree with me that they've actually gone to great lengths to try to get Miss Kennedy the mental health treatment she needs.
I do think that they have tried to do that.
Okay, and they're in marriage counseling, is that right?
That is what they told me.
All right. Now, Christine, you said on direct examination that there was some sort of protective order or charges that were pending before, is that right?
Yes.
Right. And to your knowledge, Christine followed all of the rules that she had to follow in that case.
Actually, no, not at the beginning. That was part of our investigation in September, that there was a protective order and she was still living in the home
All right.
against the court order.
Christine moved out though and spent 4 months living elsewhere while the bond condition was in place. Is that right?
Yes, after CPS intervened, yes.
Okay, but she spent 4 months living somewhere else. And did they explain to you why that was, problematic for their marriage and their relationship with their child?
They just said it was detrimental to them, that it was really hard for them.
Well, and would you agree that that is something that would be hard for a child of Ryan's age to have her mother in the house and then gone?
I'm just
Mm.
object to speculation.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the objection.
Speculation.
Overruled.
Uh,
Go ahead.
I don't remember the question now. Can you repeat
Okay,
it?
I'm sorry. Would you agree that that is something that could be difficult for a child of Ryan's age to have her mother, in her home and then removed from her home for 4 months?
It could be.
Okay. And so is it understandable why, or did you understand why the Kennedys wanted to find a way to work with the department and yet have Christine remain at home?
Yes.
Okay. Now I think just real quickly, the last thing is, I think at one point in time on direct examination, you said that, Jason, and maybe I got it wrong. I'll ask a better question. Would you agree that Jason was very agreeable to trying to work services with the department?
At first, yes.
Okay. And that when you met with the two of them, they seemed very invested in trying to find solutions that would help their daughter and help them.
During our initial encounter, yes.
Okay. And that since the removal, the Kennedys have told you that they've maintained that same attitude, right? They've said they've shown or told you that they are invested in trying to do whatever it takes to get Ryan home and to keep Ryan safe. Is that true?
Tracy, I really haven't had very many conversations with them. They did tell me they are willing to do whatever we want. That was about the gist of our conversation. I think they speak a lot more to St. Francis than me.
That's fair enough. But they did at least tell you, we'll do whatever it takes.
Yes.
All right. They brought you belongings for Ryan.
Yes.
And Christine wrote a letter to Ryan. Is that true?
Yes.
But asked you to look at it first to make sure it was appropriate.
Yes.
And was it appropriate?
Yes, it was.
Okay. They've had visits with their daughter.
Yes.
All right. And have their visits been appropriate?
As far as I know, I haven't had any report that they weren't.
So no issues. Have you gotten a report as to how Ryan is when she sees her mom?
They don't send me the reports, so
Okay, fair
I
enough.
don't know. I'm sorry.
No. Bad question on my part. All right, pass the witness.
Ms. Wiggins?
Would you agree that it's a concern that when you walk into a house and you smell marijuana and a child is residing in that home,
Yes.
whether it's legal or illegal?
Yes.
And in regards to the department's issues, they indicated when you met with them that they would drug screen for you by March 1st. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did they drug screen by March 1st?
No.
And they gave you the same reason of it'll be positive for THC because that's what we're using, correct?
Correct.
And you said, okay, just drug screen for me. Is that correct?
Um,
I mean, did you acknowledge what they said and then said, please?
I explained to them that that's not something we can remove for. So yes, we had a conversation about that.
Okay. And in regards to Ryan, would you agree with me that when you add interventions like putting someone else in the home and the child still doesn't feel safe, that that's a concern?
Yes.
Because that's the goal, is we need to do these interventions for the child to be 100% safe.
Right. Yes.
And in regards to the child's safety, the parent said to you very explicitly, we are not getting the mom out of the home.
Yes.
So there was nothing else that theoretically the department could do in regard to placement issues other than if Randall being in the home was not guaranteeing her safety.
Correct.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
All right. Anyone have further questions for Ms. Larson?
I do have further questions, Your Honor. Miss Larson, when we talked about kind of what had changed during that period from February 28th to March 5th, you said nothing
I'm
had
sorry.
changed. I'm sorry.
I'm very sorry to interrupt again. Ms.
You're-
Boundas, if you'd unmute.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't, were you here for the Kennedy case?
Yes, sir. I had that down for 1 o'clock.
Okay, you had it right. Well, no, it was set for noon, but it's moot now. The parents have both hired Tracy Riley, and she's here for that hearing. So I didn't know that until she showed up. So anyway, they're
Very
going to
good.
get us an order to substitute. So you will be off of this as far as representing Miss Kennedy, or yeah, Miss Kennedy. So you're free to go.
Excellent. Apologize for the wrong time.
That's all right. Okay, we're covered.
Thank you, guys.
You're excused. All right, I won't interrupt you again, Sam.
That's all right, Judge. And Miss Larson, based on your testimony and answering the questions for Mrs. Riley, I mean, is it fair to say that the cooperation changed between those dates?
Yes.
Is it concerning that despite everything Christine has done, that they still haven't gotten Ryan into treatment?
Yes.
And based off what you had discussed with Ms. Riley, is it concerning that the behaviors that existed prior to that first protective order started up again once she returned to the home?
Yes.
Has Ryan told you how she feels or how she felt about her mother being out of the home?
She told me that it was hard because her dad and her grandpa were having to do everything, but that it otherwise went well. That's what Ryan told me.
Okay. And so, I mean, regardless of what had been stated before, I mean, based off of that change in cooperation, I mean, is it your testimony today that you believe that there was an urgent need to protect the child and that remaining home would have been a danger to her physical health and safety?
Yes.
And I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Anyone else further questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
No,
All
Your
right.
Honor.
Does Miss Larson need to stay around or can she be excused?
I think she could stay, Judge.
Okay. All right. All right. Then Miss Wildman, your next witness.
And then the department would call Christina Hunter with St. Francis.
Okay. Miss Hunter, if you'd raise your right hand, do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
All right. You'll have to speak up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Miss Wildman?
And just briefly, Miss Hunter, how are you currently employed?
I am a permanency specialist for St. Francis Ministries.
And are you involved in a case involving a child by the name of Ryan Kennedy and her family?
I am.
Have you had the opportunity since coming on that case to meet with Ryan?
I have not physically met with Ryan yet, no.
Have you spoken with or met with her parents, Christine and Jason?
Yes, I have.
So what kind of visitation are Christine and Jason having with Ryan right now?
They're both having weekly visitation with her separately of each other
Okay, and what was I guess, what is the reason for the visitation being separate?
due to the domestic violence between the two of them.
Okay. And so are they having visits on different days, or is it close together? Or what's the actual plan right now?
Currently, they are actually having visitation on different days.
Okay. And how has visitation gone with Mr. Kennedy?
Visitation has gone great.
And how has visitation gone with Mrs. Kennedy?
Great as well.
Okay. Have you talked with them at all about services and things that St. Francis can help them get set up?
Yes, I have.
Have they set anything up yet at this point?
I've not followed up with them in regards to any services that they may have set up on their own. With my conversations with them previously, I have not come up with a family plan or reviewed that with them yet. However, we did discuss what they felt that they needed assistance on, as well as things that they wanted to work on themselves as well.
Okay. And have they, in your experience, been receptive to working on those things?
We honestly, I felt like we had a really in-depth and honest conversation. I spent, I would say roughly from 1 o'clock to roughly about 7 p.m. that day, speaking with both of them. They were very forthcoming, in things of their history, as well as things that they felt that they are currently needing as well.
Okay. And just what sort of things did you guys come up with that they wanted to work on?
I know that they both told me that they had some reservations in regards to taking medication, and they would like to find alternatives that they could maintain appropriate mental health and healthy mental health, as well as potentially possibly titrating off the medications that they're currently on. They both mentioned that they both have struggled with having a healthy relationship with medication in the past due to prior issues. Miss Christine specifically mentioned that she's had some pretty severe side effects in the past and is currently wanting to work with her psychiatrist to be able to titrate off. Jason mentioned that he does not have a psychiatrist at the moment, but he is willing to look into helping to find one. He's generally just used his his family prac to be able to get his medication.
Have they talked at all about sort of what they're hoping that the department can do for Ryan?
They've actually just mentioned that in total that they're hoping that we can be able to help their family be stronger as a whole and to reunify. They mentioned that just being able to have some additional supports and guidance in regards to, therapy, those types of things as well. I mentioned that we would be willing to pay for their therapy as far as like individual therapy. I know that they are currently actively engaged with a marriage therapist, and I also mentioned that we could potentially contract with their marriage counselor as well to be able to cover the cost of that.
Now does the department have in your contact with the family, have you had any concerns about the way that they may feel about Ryan coming forward and discussing the issues at home?
There was mention that they didn't feel that Ryan was being fully truthful in what she had come forward with. However, I discussed with them that it's not about whether they believe or I believe, that's how Ryan feels. And at this point, it's about making sure that we all work together to help Ryan to feel comfortable and to feel safe and to ensure that she always feels safe and comfortable in her home moving forward.
And did they seem receptive to your, I guess, phrasing it in that way?
Yes.
Now, at this point, is Ryan having any visitation with anybody else in the family?
She does have phone communication with her other relatives.
Are there any concerns about any of that this
Not
time?
as of the moment, no.
As far as any concerns or needs for Ryan, is there anything the court needs to be made aware of at this time?
As of the moment, no.
I will pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Ms. Hunter, is Ryan in counseling yet?
She is currently on a wait list to get in with her therapist. The therapist that was selected for her doesn't have any availability till like the very beginning of April.
Okay. And who's that?
It's Lynn Stevens.
Okay. Lynn Stevens or Lynn Jennings?
Sorry, Jennings. Sorry.
I was gonna say I didn't know a Lynn Stevens.
Sorry. I got
Okay.
one too many names in my head today.
And if you could just tell me where Ryan's currently placed, the type of facility in city or county.
She is placed in Randall County. She's actually currently placed locally. She's in an emergency shelter for the moment.
Okay.
Judge, she is in equine therapy as well. I don't know if you wanted to know that.
Yeah, I sure do.
Yeah, they're at her placement. They do equine therapy.
Is that something new since removal?
Yes, they just started doing that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a big believer in equine therapy, so that's
Yeah.
good to hear.
That's cool.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Riley, questions for Ms. Hunter?
Yeah, just, I know you said that you talked to the parents about, it's not about whether or not it's true or not, it's just based on that's how she feels, talking about Ryan, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and I think what you mean by that is like, if Ryan doesn't feel safe, then the parents need to address that.
Yes.
And so that's regardless of whether or not, so regardless of whether or not she actually is safe, if she doesn't feel safe, that's something that you feel the parents should handle.
Generally, from my experience, most children won't say that they don't feel safe if they felt safe. So the way I approached it was that if, everybody's entitled to their feelings, the Kennedys are allowed to have their feelings in regards to the situation, just as Ryan is. And respecting each other's feelings and ensuring that she feels secure and safe is what's important at the end of the day.
Right. Okay. But my question is that I think what you're saying is, even if Ryan were safe at home, if she feels unsafe, then that's something you think that the Kennedys should address. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And in that long conversation you had with the Kennedys, did they explain to you that they would be willing to do anything necessary to have their daughter returned home?
Yes.
All right. Did you discuss with them Christine moving out of the house?
No, I did not.
Okay. To your knowledge, has anyone asked them if Christine would be willing to move out of the house if it meant that Ryan could come home?
I'm not aware of that. I know the Kennedys mentioned it to me being brought up. They didn't specify by whom. But I told them that I didn't feel like that would be something that would be beneficial, as this is now the third case that they've had regarding similar circumstances. And in order for the family unit to be strong as a whole, we needed to work on the family as a whole.
Okay. And there's nothing as of yet that you've asked the Kennedys to do that they have not done. Is that right?
I did leave Christine with a few items that she would need, that I suggested that she work on to kind of give herself a leg up, essentially, such as locating like an OBGYN, looking into seeing if they could find like a local PCP essentially, and as well as seeing if there was a local hormone therapist that could be able to also assist her. And then I also left the Kennedys with a little bit of, I call it like homework, just suggesting to them to take like the last 30 minutes of their day to not like to put down electronics and turn the TV off and just spend that time for them to communicate with each other, as well as maybe doing some 15 minutes of journaling, to state like, had a good day, bad day. So that way, when days are getting rougher, they have some times to be able to look back and see the progress that they are making.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm confused because my question was, is there anything they've been asked to do that they're not doing? So are those things that you just listed off things that they're not doing?
No, I don't know if they are or not. Those were just the things that I have asked. Again, I have not followed up with them.
Okay, so to your knowledge, anything they've been asked to do so far, they've done.
Again, I don't know yes or no to that.
Okay. And have you had any conversations with Randall Kennedy?
I have not.
Okay. And in that discussion with the Kennedys, with Jason and Christine, Was Christine upfront with you about her mental health issues?
Yes.
And did she discuss in detail the things that she's doing to try to ameliorate the outside effects of her mental health issues?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that she provided information about all, her treatment, psychiatrists, therapists, and medications?
Yes.
Past witness.
Ms. Wiggins?
And just to clarify, sorry if I could say that word. Just to clarify, all your conversations happened after the removal. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you've met with the child since the removal?
I have not met her yet. I'm out to go see her this week.
Okay. But she's at the High Plains Children's Home. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Pass the witness, Judge.
All right, anyone else? Okay. Ms. Wildman, any other witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. The department was going to call Erin Kennedy if she is still in the waiting room.
She is. We are going to have to get a lot more realistic about the times on these cases, Ms. Wildman, you and Ms. Gutierrez both.
Yes, Judge, I apologize. And I will try to keep the questions fairly brief.
All right, Ms. Kennedy, Erin Kennedy, this is Judge Graham. If you'd unmute, please.
Hi, Your Honor. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Not so great.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
No.
Ma'am, if you'd raise your right hand, you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wildman?
And Miss Kennedy, how are you related to Jason and Christine and Ryan Kennedy?
I'm Jason Kennedy's sister.
Okay. And so it's fair to say you've known Jason Kennedy his whole life or your whole life.
Correct. And I've
How long-
known Christine for over probably 15 years.
How did you meet Christine?
I met her where we used to work. She used to come into my bar and then she started working with me and we became close.
So did you know her before she married your brother?
Correct.
Now, what kind of relationship have you had with Jason and Christine in the past?
Very good. Very
Um,
close.
And describe why you feel that it was a close relationship.
I mean, we would talk all the time. I was like best friends with her. I used to vacation with her in St. Thomas. I moved down there. She used to come visit me. I'd go over to their house and cook and babysit. I mean, normal, good friend, good close brother relationship
Now, at that time, where were you all living?
in Virginia.
Okay. And is that where you currently live?
I live in Maryland, but close. Yeah, it's very close.
Now, what kind of relationship do you have currently with Ryan?
Pretty close. I mean, I supported them moving to Texas when nobody else did. I said it was a good idea. My brother started a business. They were doing really good, very supportive. I'm close with Ryan. I get to see her as much as I can now that they've moved, but
Now, do you and Ryan talk over the phone or through any social media or anything like that?
I mean, honestly, since all of this has been going on, I haven't really been able to talk to her too much
But
because,
before all of this happened, were you having contact with Ryan?
yes,
Okay, and how often were you talking to Ryan?
I don't know, maybe once a month or whatever.
Okay.
They've always been busy, with their business. So I try to just kind of, sit back and let them do them without bugging anyone.
Okay. And so has Ryan talked to you at all about how she feels being at home?
Judge, I'd object without a time frame. I don't know when we're talking about.
Okay.
And I can narrow it down. When was the last time you talked with Ryan?
The last time I talked to her was Valentine's Day, February 14th of this year.
Okay.
She called me.
And did you talk to her or did she talk to you at all about how she was feeling at home at that time?
Well, she called me because her parents were arguing. So, and honestly, she doesn't call me that much when they're arguing. She calls my mom, Linda. So the fact that
Ms.
I'm
Kennedy,
sorry.
I'm going to break up my question. So if
Okay.
you just want to answer the one question, and then we'll follow up.
Sure.
That way, the court reporter can kind of follow things a little bit better.
Sure.
So you said that her parents were arguing. How did you know that?
I could hear them in the background, and she told me.
Okay. And do you easily recognize Jason and Christine's voices?
Yeah.
And what did you hear them saying in the background?
I couldn't really make it out, but I did hear Jason say, I'm taking our child to the office. And that was it. And I told Ryan, listen to her dad and just go. And they didn't know I was on the phone, and she left it. Like, she just left the counter and went with her dad, and I hung up so they wouldn't know that she had called me.
What when you say you couldn't make out any of the other words, I mean, what were their voices raised? What did it sound like?
It was raised and stern, but I mean, it's probably because Ryan was there, and I'm assuming they were trying not to be loud, but she could hear them and I could hear them, but they were in their bedroom.
Judge, I'm going to object to that and ask that be stricken as speculation.
Sustain. Everything passed you assumed it was because of, so sustain.
Okay.
Okay, well, I heard them loudly talking, sternly and arguing.
Okay.
Yes.
And so, is that, I mean, you've known them for quite a while. Is that an unusual way for them to speak to each other?
As of lately, no.
And what do you mean as of lately?
Like the last 2 years.
What sort of changes have you seen personally in the way Jason and Christine interact over the last couple of years?
Objection to relevance, Judge?
Yeah, what is the relevance of that?
Your Honor, we've already put in, and it's been testified to, that there were previous cases involving CPS within the last 2 years, and that the behaviors have continued. I think it's relevant because Ms. Kennedy can add additional context to the timeline that's already been offered up in testimony.
All right, let's keep it really short, Ms. Wildman.
Yeah.
So,
and just generally over the last couple of years, like I said, how has that changed?
Well, I was called to go down there to help out, and I witnessed her screaming at him, chasing the postman, thinking the postman was out to get her. So I witnessed it in the house firsthand.
Do you remember when that was?
Yes. November 23rd or the beginning of November 2023.
Okay. And so, who called you down there?
Judge, I'm going to object to further questions about things that happened in November of 2023.
Overruled. And I didn't get the date when she was there.
I was there at the beginning of November of 2023. So this has been going on since then.
Okay, and who called you? And when you say down, I'm assuming you're coming from where you're living down.
Correct. Jason called me, and I was on a plane there the next day.
What did he say to you that made you go that quickly?
I mean, I know that she's been going through things, and I thought it was slightly urgent that they're calling me to help to watch Ryan to keep her occupied so he could deal with Christine.
How long were you here?
A week.
Okay. And I say here, were they still living in Canyon, Texas at the time?
Correct.
Okay. And when you left, I mean, were things better?
No, she had kicked me and my brother out of the house in the middle of the night.
Okay. And so after that, when was the next time you saw Christine and Jason?
I haven't seen them since.
Okay. And have you had concerns based off of what Ryan has been telling you?
Absolutely.
About that, and let me rephrase. Is it specifically about the behavior and what you've overheard that causes you concern?
It's from what Ryan has told me and from what I've seen personally. I have a serious concern. Yes.
Even though you haven't seen them in person, have you talked to Jason or Christine over the last couple of years?
I've talked to my brother a few times, telling him that he needed to get her out of the house because Ryan was being traumatized, and he agreed. But I feel like it just keeps going. I don't.
How many, and Miss Kennedy, how many times have you had that conversation with your brother?
5+ times.
And do you know if he's taken any efforts to
He has
address
been
those?
an
Right,
angel trying to.
Miss Kennedy, you've got to let her finish asking her question before you
Sure.
answer. The court reporter cannot take both of you at the same time.
Gotcha.
And do you know, has Jason talked to you about any efforts that he and Chris have taken to address any of the issues that have raised concerns?
Absolutely. He's been an angel trying to get her help, but it's just not working. And I don't know what's wrong, but it needs to be assessed with Ryan out of the house.
Miss Kennedy, please just try to answer only the question you're asked.
Okay.
She didn't ask you what your opinion was on whether she needed to be in the house or not. That's the kind of thing
Okay.
I'm talking about.
Okay.
And I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Let me see where we're at. We're about to be behind on another hearing.
And I apologize, Judge.
Yeah, I only have one person in there so far. I'm going to probably interrupt you here in a few minutes and try to deal with what we're going to do with that case too. So, okay, Miss Riley, questions for Miss Kennedy?
Real briefly, Miss Kennedy, fair to say that you think Christine Kennedy should move out, right?
Correct.
And in fact, you don't want her with your brother anymore, right?
No, I want them together. I want her to get help.
Okay, but you've told your brother that he should leave her. Is that right?
No.
Okay. The last time you talked to Christine, or I mean, not Christine, but you talked to Ryan, I just want to make sure I get this right. They were raised voices and they were stern. Is that right?
They were arguing in the bedroom. Yes.
Okay. And you said the only thing you heard was Jason saying, I'm going to take our daughter to the office.
Yeah, because it seemed like she was.
That's all I'm asking.
Yep.
Pass the witness.
All right, Miss Wildman. I'm sorry, not Miss Wildman, Miss Wiggins.
I have no questions.
Okay. All right, Miss Wildman, do you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, we'll rest.
All right. And Miss Riley, how many witnesses do you have?
One for sure, possibly two.
First witness?
I called Christine Kennedy.
Okay. Miss Kennedy, if you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And if you would, ma'am, speak up just a little. You're soft-spoken. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
Okay.
I will try my best.
Okay, that's much
Okay.
better. Thank you. Okay, Miss Riley.
Okay, Christine. You are Ryan's mother, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and you're married to Jason.
Yes.
How long have you all lived in Canyon?
Going on 5 years this year.
All right. Would you agree with me that you have had some mental health issues?
Yes.
Okay, so when did those start?
In my youth,
All right.
I started addressing them with medications back in 2018.
Yeah, if they
2018.
stopped before.
Jason, you can't talk.
Mr. Kennedy.
Oh, sorry.
excuse me.
Sorry.
Yeah, you got
I'm so sorry. Yes, I started addressing.
let me just kind of set the parameters here.
Yes.
It doesn't bother me if he sits there with you, but he can't. You can't look to him for answers,
Okay.
and he can't
I
answer for you.
apologize.
Okay, all right, let's
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
So, all right. So, would you agree that around the end of 2023 that things with your mental health kind of took a turn?
That the end of 2022, beginning of 2023 is
Okay.
when I had my first ever major mental health crisis. Yes, that's
All
one
right.
thing.
And
Check.
what happened, or what was, like, did you get diagnosed with something? What was the end result of that?
The end result was I got stabilized and I started with my psychiatrist, then Dr. Tolsik. And I remained with her under psychiatric and Amy as counseling from then on.
All right. Did you, and I don't want to go into every medication that you were on, but you were on medications at that time, right?
Yes.
Did there come a point when those medications were having side effects that were detrimental to you?
Yes, that was in November of 2023. That was my second hospitalization. I was misdiagnosed with bipolar. They put me on several different meds that just, I wasn't bipolar. So they made me, yeah, we had to go through a whole process to recover from that.
Right. And would you agree that in that time frame that some of your behaviors were troubling to say the least?
Absolutely.
Okay, can you give, and I don't want to bring up all your, but can you just give a couple of examples of things that you were doing when your meds were wrong?
I thought that Jason was trying to kill me. I thought that everybody was against me. I didn't know what was up or down. Um, it made me very paranoid, very like jittery, frantic. Like I could not
Okay,
concentrate. Just terrible. It was
okay.
terrible.
So
And
as a result of that, did you seek intervention?
absolutely, I did.
Right. And what'd you do?
I went straight to my doctor and my psychiatrist, and I said, we need to figure out something. Like, I'm not bipolar. Got that confirmed. Got back, Dr. Barfoot got me back on a regimen to keep me stabilized. And then we looked into ketamine treatments.
Okay, well, did you enter, so in essence, without going into the details, did you change your medications?
Yes.
Okay. And then was there a period where you were more stable?
Yes.
Okay. Was there a time when there were additional issues that happened with your mental health?
Yes. I was diagnosed with PMDD, which we hadn't even considered over the time. And so I started addressing the hormonal imbalances that came to light.
And what is PMDD?
It is premenstrual dysphoric disorder.
Okay. And so you are currently seeing a psychiatrist, is that right?
Yes.
And you get your medications from a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell me what medications you're currently taking.
I take, well, I'm weaning off the alprazolam. I take so the Xanax, which is the alprazolam, the Adderall, the antidepressant Pristiq, and clonidine to help weaning off the Xanax and to help with my ADHD.
Okay, and so your diagnosis are major depressive disorder?
I'm sorry.
What are your diagnosis?
So my diagnosis is, well, I have a panic disorder, um, just ADHD, anxiety, PMDD. Yeah.
Okay. Would you agree with me that there have been 2 or 3 major incidences that have required your hospitalization over the last 3 years?
Yes.
Okay. Any time that those sort of major issues have happened, have you cooperated fully with any medical treatment that was suggested?
Absolutely.
Now, there was a criminal case that came about in when was that? In what month?
September. It was September 8th.
Of 2024, correct?
Please, y'all don't talk over each other.
I'm sorry. Okay, September of 2024.
Yes.
All right. Was that an additional incident where there was something going on with your mental health?
Yes.
And what was going on at that time?
At that time, the hormonal issues were in the middle of being addressed, but I had not received my testosterone replacement therapy yet.
Right. Did you ultimately were you what happened to the charges that you were facing?
They were rejected because there was no grounds.
Okay, and
They
I'm
were
not asking.
rejected.
Yeah.
That was a
I'm
good
sorry?
answer. They were rejected.
Yes.
Okay. And so you currently do not have any criminal charges, correct?
No.
Okay. Now there was also something that happened after that in Virginia, correct?
No.
In Maryland,
North Carolina.
North Carolina. There we go. In North Carolina.
Yeah.
And you were hospitalized briefly for that as well, correct?
Yes.
All right. And then have you cooperated with anything that you needed to do as a result of that?
Absolutely.
All right. Has there been a breakdown in communication between you and Jason's mother and sister?
Yes.
Do you feel like withdrawn? In terms of Ryan, when you hear that the testimony that Ryan feels unsafe at home, how does that make you feel?
Heartbroken.
All
I'm
right.
devastated that she feels that way.
Do you agree that Ryan is unsafe at home?
No, she is safe at home.
All right. Do you agree that if she feels unsafe, that's something that needs to be addressed?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Now, you heard testimony about an original meeting that you and Jason had with Katie Larson, where you signed a safety plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And did you agree to let Randall move into the house to supervise you with Ryan?
Yes.
All right. Was that something that you wanted to do?
No, but I mean, hey, we had no problem doing it for Ryan. And it, yes, no,
Did you make arrangements to have Randall move in following
yes.
that meeting?
Oh yeah. He moved right in.
All right.
He ran, got a bag, and moved right in.
All right. So when did you come to the decision that you weren't going to go drug test, even though you had told them you would do it by the 1st?
After we left the meeting, we all had a brief discussion and wanted to consult an attorney just to make sure that our business and our livelihood was protected before moving forward, because we've never dealt with anything like this.
So was the concern that you would test positive, or was the concern that if you tested positive, that might affect your business?
The business.
Okay. You told them you would test positive, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So did you make an effort to get an attorney?
Yes.
And
yes.
without saying who that
I'm sorry.
Without saying who that person is,
mm-hmm.
did you make efforts to meet with attorneys, with family law attorneys?
Yeah, we met with Claire, I think.
No. She didn't ask you to name names.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
You just met with attorneys. That's all I needed to hear.
Yeah. All right. Is it fair to say that you were unable to retain a lawyer until after Ryan was removed?
Yes.
All right. At any point after that meeting in which you signed a safety plan, did anyone from the department reach out to you personally and ask you to drug test?
No.
Did anyone reach out?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Did anyone reach out to you and say, Christine, if you don't drug test by X date, we're going to remove Ryan?
No.
If anyone had told you, if you don't drug test right now, we're removing Ryan, what would you have done?
Ran down to Raw Sausage and taken the drug test.
And would you have done that even if it did end up affecting your business?
Yeah.
Did you understand that there was or what was your understanding as in terms of whether or not there was a deadline? Now, I know you said you drug test by the 1st, but did you think that there was a deadline that if you didn't do things that your child would be removed?
No. I had no understanding of that.
Now you heard some testimony about you and Jason arguing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you and Jason argue?
Yeah.
All right. How often would you say you and Jason argue?
I mean, a few times a week at least, we run a business. I think we argue as much as
Less than my parents.
All right, but now, Miss Kennedy, I'm going to ask you one more time.
I'm
You're
sorry.
answering a lot of yes or no questions, and you're answering yes or no, and then you're throwing in a bunch of stuff that I don't need to hear. So
It's the nerves. I
I
apologize.
understand, but if it's yes or no, that's a good answer.
Okay.
All right. So, is Ryan present when you all fight?
Occasionally, but we make an effort to not have her around.
How do you make an effort to have her not around?
We'll either tell her to go to her room, or if she happens to be in her room already, we'll move to the other side of the house, the garage, outside, you know.
Has Ryan talked to you about your fighting, you and Jason's arguing?
Yes.
And have you talked to her about it?
Yes.
And so what do you talk to her about it?
I let her know that, sometimes mommies and daddies have stressful things that we deal with, and, we can get frustrated with each other, but we're working it out.
Now, you've heard some testimony that Ryan sometimes say you guys get loud, angry, maybe cursing even. Would you agree that's happened?
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I feel, awful that it's gotten better. I feel it hurts me that she's feeling scared to be home.
Have you done things to try to stop the anger or the conflict between you and Jason?
Jason and I are both actively working on the conflict, and naturally it's become better over the last couple months since I've been back.
All right. Now let's go back. When the police were called regarding the incident that happened in September of 24, who called the police or who called 911 to try to get intervention?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Who called 911 to try to have authorities intervene back in September of 2024 that led to criminal charges?
Oh, Jason did.
All right. And then how long were you gone from your house?
4 months.
And from what month to what month?
I left from the end of September, and then I came back end of January.
Has it been difficult to come back home?
Yeah, it's been quite an adjustment. I was like living on the road for a while, and yeah, it's been difficult. It's been wonderful at the same time.
Okay. What is your relationship with Ryan like?
We have a great relationship. It's taken a toll, like my mental health issues have taken a toll on our relationship, but since I've been back, we've had so many good moments and adventures, and I see it just growing every day that I'm with her.
Let me interrupt for a second, Miss Riley. Miss Wiggins,
Oh, I think she's gone.
Yes, Judge. I
why are you in
get
the?
on my phone. I have to move from my
Well,
computer to
okay.
my phone. I'm sorry.
I was asking you why are you in
I
my
tried to
waiting room?
chat Brittany. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. I'm bringing you in out of the waiting room. Okay, you
Thank you,
ready?
Judge. I'm good.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Okay. Did you have you been presented with any additional services that the department's asked you to do?
Yes.
Okay, what are those?
They've offered parenting classes, counseling. They've offered counselors for Ryan. They've offered, several things.
Is there anything that the department's asked you to do that you're not willing to do?
Okay, now that's the subject of a status hearing, not today's
Sorry,
hearing.
Judge. No, yeah. Okay, so Christine, let me to ask you though, at the time of removal, what happened between February of 28th, when you met with the department, and March 6th, when she was removed, was there any incidences that happened at home?
No,
Was there any arguing between you and Jason in that time frame?
no,
Did Ryan indicate anything to you during that time that she was unsafe or that there were problems?
no, no,
Did the department come by at any point between those two time periods?
no.
Pass the witness.
Right. Ms. Wildman?
Thank you, Judge. Miss Kennedy, the incident in September of 2024, do you remember in that case admitting to the officers that you had intentionally grabbed the steering wheel while Jason was driving?
No,
Well, do you remember telling them you grabbed it?
no.
Okay, so
I don't.
what is your understanding of what happened then?
My understanding is that I went to grab the steering wheel. My husband grabbed the steering wheel instead and overcorrected. And
Well, who was driving?
my husband.
Okay, so you shouldn't have been grabbing the steering wheel. You'd agree with me, right?
I didn't grab it, but I should not have been going for it. Correct.
And was Ryan there with you when that happened?
He was in the back seat of the car.
And what was her reaction to what was going on?
I don't know. She was in the back seat. I mean, I'm assuming she was
No,
probably.
that's you don't assume that's a good answer.
Okay, okay.
I don't know is always a good answer too.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
But she was in the car when this happened,
Right.
right?
That's been asked and answered, Miss Wildman. We got to move this along.
I agree, Judge. After that incident happened, did you in any way attempt to get Ryan into any kind of counseling to address how she might have felt after that incident?
I would have, but I was under bond conditions to not have any contact with my daughter or my husband for 4 months.
So to your knowledge, nobody tried to get her help with that.
I believe she was being counseled during school with Mrs. Bolliard, Hope Bolliard. And I mean, yeah, I how could I have knowledge? No, I don't know.
Okay.
If there were efforts made during that time.
Have you followed up since being back in the home to see if she's in any kind of counseling?
Well, I know that she's in counseling at school.
Prior to
And I've been actively searching for the right counselor for her and our family. Yes.
So the answer is no, she has not been in any kind of counseling except maybe at school, but you're not sure since September of 2024, correct?
I have not found her a counselor as of yet. There's a shortage in the area as well.
Okay.
So,
and Ms. Kennedy, the incident in December of 2022, do you recall assaulting Patricia Stewart during that incident?
No.
Do you recall your behavior with the police in that incident?
I do.
Okay. So do you recall being uncooperative with the police when they responded?
I do.
Do you recall the involuntary commitment that resulted after that incident?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Why were you guys in North Carolina at that time?
To celebrate Christmas with Jason's family.
Okay. And so Ryan was with you?
Yes.
Do you recall telling the officer?
He wasn't with me. Well, yes.
Do you recall telling the officer that you wanted your daughter brought to you during that altercation?
Yes.
You'd agree with me that that probably wouldn't have been a good time for Ryan to be seeing you, right?
Right, but I do have a panic. Yes,
Okay.
I would agree with you.
After that incident, you still didn't try to reach out and find any counseling for Ryan, right?
After I did. That's not true. Yes, I did reach out and try to find counseling for Ryan, and I have been.
But you didn't set anything up, correct?
Did it? No, I have not.
Do you know when
I'm still
Ryan
waiting
started?
to hear back from two.
All right, next question.
Do you know when Ryan started wetting the bed?
She's always had issues. I've taken her to two doctors regarding the bedwetting issues over the last 4 years.
Miss Kennedy, the question was, do you know when she started wetting the bed?
Well, she never stopped wetting the bed.
Okay, all right, there's a good answer. We've got to keep this brief. I'm cutting everybody off at 2:30.
So does it surprise you then to hear testimony that that issue has started to resolve since she's been removed from your home?
Does it surprise me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what medications are you supposed to be taking right now?
Alprazolam and Prestige, Adderall, and Clonidine.
Okay. And so if you were to take a drug test for the department, all of those things should be present, correct?
Yes.
Have you taken a drug test for the department?
Yes.
And have you discussed those results with anybody from the department?
Katie called me about those results on the 17th, I believe. Yes.
And were you surprised by those results?
I was shocked, yes.
Why?
She told me that the Adderall and the alprazolam did not show up in the urinalysis or the hair follicle test. And
do you understand how that could cause concern for the department if you were expecting those to be there because you're taking medication, but they were not present?
yes, yes, I could understand that.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Ms. Wiggins?
Thank you, Judge. Miss Kennedy, what did you believe that Ryan was lying to the investigator about?
I'm sorry. Lying?
Yes, you indicated that the child was not being truthful. What do you believe the child is not being truthful about?
I don't recall.
So if Ryan said that there's arguing in the house, you would agree with Ryan?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
Okay. All right. Miss Riley, anything else from this witness?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Miss Riley, any other witnesses?
Yes, we'd call Jason Kennedy.
Okay. Mr. Kennedy, if you'd raise your right hand, please, sir. You swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Miss Riley?
Jason, you're the father of Ryan Kennedy, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're married to Christine?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I just want to briefly ask you, going back to the incident in September of 24, who is the person that called 911 to get assistance for Christine?
I was.
All right. And going to the incident that happened in North Carolina, did you again seek medical intervention on behalf of Christine at that point in time?
No.
Did you cooperate with the doctors in terms of trying to get her medical intervention?
Yes.
All right. And did you do everything you could to try to address whatever issues were happening at that time?
Yes.
And so if you felt, so in September of 24, you called 911 twice about your wife. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right. Are you the person that had her involuntarily committed?
Yes.
Okay. So if you felt that Christine was a danger to you or to Ryan or to herself, and you felt that calling the authorities would assist in stopping that, would you do so?
Yes.
So since Christine has come home, have you had to contact the authorities at all because of anything that's happened with her?
No.
Why not?
because nothing has happened.
All
And
right.
there's
Now,
no need to call the authorities.
okay. Would you agree that you and Christine fight sometimes?
Yes.
You argue.
Yes.
Do you sometimes raise your voices?
Yes.
Is there name calling sometimes?
Yes.
All right. Is it fair to say that you believe that some of your family have influenced Ryan to over-exaggerate what's happening at your house?
Yes.
Objection, speculation.
Sustain.
When Ryan has spoken up about things happening in your house, is there ever a common connection with that?
Can you repeat that question?
Yes. Sorry, bad question. Do you ever notice whether or not when Ryan, has said that something bad happened at the house, does it come in connection with her speaking with someone outside of the home?
Yes, because it does not correlate. Yes.
And so when Ryan says something negative or something bad has happened in the house, who does it correlate with her having spoken to?
My side of the family.
And do
My
we
mother.
mean Randall?
My mother, my sister.
All right, pass the witness.
Okay. Miss Wildman.
Real briefly, Mr. Kennedy, when did Christine move back into the house?
I want to say mid-January off the top of my head.
Okay, so the incident in North Carolina in December would have happened before she came home, but when you were supposed to not be having contact due to the bond conditions, correct?
I was not aware of those bond conditions and the time.
Okay, but based on your understanding now, yes, that occurred during time when bond conditions would have been in place.
Yes.
And let me ask you if you weren't aware of the bond conditions, then why did Christine move out for 4 months?
The case was refused, and
But were the bond conditions still in place for those 4 months?
I was not. I don't recall.
If you were concerned about Ryan talking to your family members and making these false claims, as you say, why did you tell Ryan to stop talking to her school counselor?
Because the things Ryan would come home and talk about just didn't they didn't correlate with what was happening in our household, and I just wanted her to try to keep our fit. We were trying to work as a family with mom coming home, and I wanted to make sure that she was seeking another counselor as well for almost like a second opinion and not just one counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, Miss Wiggins.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Kennedy, did you seek a new counselor for Ryan?
No, my wife was very adamant about handling that since she's been doing that for a while now.
Okay, and she didn't find a new one, is that correct?
Not yet, but I know she has picked a few, and I know she has made phone calls, and we have talked about it.
Okay, and you indicated that, so was it fair to say that you thought Ryan was bringing up old issues back into the new times? Is that a fair statement?
Sure.
So that didn't occur to you that maybe she was still having emotional issues from the old trauma?
Yes.
Okay, I'll pass witness.
All right. Anything else from Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, just briefly. So, Jason, just to make sure that we clarify as terms of the bond, when we talk about 4 months, were you under the impression that when you were in December that the case had been refused and the bond didn't exist?
Yes.
All right, pass the witness.
Okay. All right, then, Ms. Riley, do you have any other witnesses?
I do not, Judge. We'd rest.
Okay, thank you. And I guess Mr. Kennedy, Miss Kennedy's right there with you. That's fine. She's not in the camera shot, but I just
Yeah, I'm right here.
okay, yeah. I just didn't want you to think I was sending y'all out of the room. So
Oh, no.
okay. All right then. Miss Wiggins, do you have any witnesses?
I do not, Judge.
All right. Miss Wiggins, recommendations?
My recommendation is that Ryan, or the department, remain temporary managing conservator. Ryan's placement to continue. I am glad that they're getting her in with Lynn Jennings, Dr. Jennings. I believe that would be the best course of action in this case. I met with Ryan. Ryan was a very bright, pleasant girl, wanted to do geology and had a rock in her pocket. So she was very happy in exploring her new placement. And I'm hoping we can find a permanent house there in High Plains.
Okay, thank you. All right. Then I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator, continue Ryan's current placement, knowing that they're looking for a placement. I will comment though, even though it's an emergency shelter at High Plains Children's Home, they run a really good program. So, but that's not where she needs to be for very long. So I'll set the next hearing, the status hearing for May 5th, 2025. That will be by Zoom, just like today's hearing. So parties and attorneys can either contact your attorney or the department or St. Francis a day or two in advance of May 5th to see exactly what time we'll have that hearing. I will say, I'd really like to, obviously I can't tell you who to call as witnesses, but the court's really interested in hearing from Ryan's counselor at that hearing. And I agree. I hope it is Dr. Jennings because she does well. So, okay. We'll stand in recess.
Okay, so the video ended. What was your thoughts? Comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. As always, thanks for watching Men Views.